and big data are fast reshaping businesses across the sectors globally. To delve in detail on how companies could make the most of these valuable new assets, I would now like to call upon Gary Jackson, Director of Business Analytics at CSC Asia, to address us on the confluence of social and big data. Gary?
Good afternoon. How are y'all today? Good? Especially after lunch, this is a really tough slide because everyone gets sleepy, but I have some news for you. This might be the last conference you ever have to attend. Ever. If the Mayans are correct. Right? The 21st of December, they say, is the end of the world. So enjoy this conference. This might be your last. What I thought was really funny is I totally forgot about that. I've seen the movie 2012. I just forgot about it. And I was actually at a restaurant. I work out of Hong Kong. And the restaurant, because I'm a loyal customer, they gave me a calendar. It's a 12-month calendar. And they gave me the year 2013 calendar. And the lady gave it to me. She said, hey, I don't think you're going to need it because the end of the world's out the 21st of December. And I was thinking, I said, well, maybe the Mayan calendar is the same. It's just more efficient. 5,137 years in one book. Right? So just, that's a bad joke. But anyway. But that's one thing I wanted to bring up here, is as we're trying to predict the future, do you believe it? Do you believe we can predict the future? I've been doing business analytics for about 14 years. And I would say for the last 10 years, our technology has been such to a point, we can't predict the future. We've been so stuck doing data warehouses and doing BI and creating 300 reports that no one looks at, that we can't get to the point of changing the future. And what I wanted to try to present today is how that technology is changing, how we can use it, especially here at CSC. And the most important thing is, let's say the 21st of December is the end of the world. We laughed. What if it is? Why are you here? What is your purpose to be here? What about your families? What would you do in the last 11 days of your life? And one of the things I wanted to try to bring out is, that is my #1 KPI. I'm so sick of building all these warehouses and BI projects that doesn't help anything. I want to get people home. Our #1 goal is to be able to do something that's so creative and changes the world, and then we can share it with our families. That should be our #1 KPI. That should be the #1 KPI we're trying to do for our customers. And that is the #1 thing that I'm trying to show off today. But there's no mystery about it. A lot of people believe in predictive analytics. I have to say, I don't believe in predicting the future. Although I just talked about it. I believe being able to show the future and being able to prevent or adapt around it. If you know your future, do you just laugh like it just did? Act like it's not going to happen? Or do you change your life around it? And one great example of this is I have a very good friend. She actually worked for a university in New York City. And she volunteered for the DNA mapping, the gene mapping. Single mother of 2, healthy. Volunteered for this cancer research project. They determined that she had an 80% chance of cancer in the next 18 months. She was completely healthy. She had an 8-month-old and she had a 12-year-old. Does she just pretend she didn't hear it? They predict your future, or does she prevent or adapt around it? That's one of the reasons why I wear this cancer bracelet. She chose to be preventive. She was diagnosed with possibly having ovarian and breast cancer. So she had a mastectomy and a hysterectomy before having any symptoms. In the middle of her chemo, she was diagnosed with bone cancer. And because she was doing the chemo, she's still alive. What we're getting into is a place where, if you know the future, there's a psychology to it. You have to act. You can't just say, oh, that's great, there's our forecast. You have to be able to change it. And especially in India. Especially when we have the matchmaking services, and especially as you're predicting 2 lives and families coming together, there's no other country that understands this dynamic. But I think all of us know, from a matchmaking perspective, it's not math. It's not pure math. It's a social plus math input together that allows us to predict the future and be able to prevent or adapt around it. So I wanted to kind of show you some examples of it really working. And I also wanted to kind of give you my opinion of where I think it's going to go. And some of it might be a little disruptive, and some might be discerning. But I believe that this is what's going to happen in the next couple months. So some of the things we're going to be talking about is, I wanted to bring up Obama. I wanted to also show what big data is not. Everyone seems to be putting data scientists and big data on their CVs. Everyone thinks that's the buzzword. Do you really know what big data is? Or the key is knowing that it's not. So we're going to be going through that. We're also going to be going through social media strategy, sentiment, all of these things that get these buzzwords, and how do they really work? So let's start with Obama. So Obama, as you saw the presidential election, which I think is so funny, the U.S. presidential election is such a global event, right? I'm in China watching Fox News. That's the craziest thing. So it's like a world president as you're watching these elections. What's funny about Obama is how he won, because it was such a tight race. He didn't win because he got the most percentages and he just went out and knocked on doors. I mean, he did that. But when he was one of the first big data cruncher presidents, he realized that he had to focus on certain markets, certain states that would win. And on those states, he only had to focus on the people that were movable. The people that actually would go out for him and actually vote for him. And most importantly, he would only focus on those people that would actually speak for him and change. It's not manipulation using big data. They actually created teams of people that would actually look and say, okay, especially the 20 to 30 demographic. The 20 to 30 demographic is one of the strongest demographics to actually do something. And that's what I call the psychology of analytics. Analytics is not driven by math. Changing the future is not completely driven by math. It's driven by humans interacting with one another. Look at you right now. Look at the suits and the clothes and the shoes that you're wearing. You didn't buy those from a banner ad. Well, let me ask, has anyone bought the clothes you're wearing from a banner ad? No. Through a search. Has anyone bought your clothes through a search? Strictly on search? No. You bought it because of our friends and family, the people that you aspire to be. The psychology of analytics is driven by the behavior aspects of it. And that's what Obama tapped into. Basically, he looked at those people that were leaning towards him, and all he had to do was motivate them to get out and vote. And only in the states that he knew he had to win. That's it. That's all he had to do. And basically, he created a team in what they call the cave, and they made bets on what caused human reaction. So I don't know if the Americans that are in the House, or those people that actually gave money to the Obama administration during the election. I was getting 30 emails a day from them. I was getting a little pissed off. But you know what they were doing behind the scenes? They were making bets to which link I would click on, and which link would make me act. And that's where the key to be able to change the future is getting people to act. Using analytics. Now, I want to talk about what big data is not. Big data is not about hoarding. I don't mean 49 cats and 12 dogs and 3 parrots, keeping them all in one house. But what I'm talking about is data. People keep thinking that we have to just collect this data, piles and piles and piles, and magically the data will actually become something. No, the goal of big data is what I'm doing now. I am amazed. I'm sitting here, or standing here, speaking English. Most of you, English is not your primary language. You're taking the words that I'm saying, you're translating it to the dialect or the understanding that you know, and taking the context and projecting that feeling forward. You're deleting the trash, but you're keeping the context. That is big data. Our goal for big data is to take the context in, conceptualize it, have a feeling about it, plug it in with that, project it forward, and either archive the rest or get rid of it. Don't hoard. Hoarding is the destruction of what we're trying to do with big data analytics. Contextualize. I think it was very fitting when they were building David, the statue, they were chiseling away the stone to find the David. Not trying to create the David from the stone. And that is very important what we're trying to do from a big data analytics perspective. Now, how does this confluence of big data and social kind of interact? I talk to a lot of CIOs, I talk to a lot of CMOs, they all say they have a social media strategy. And they're spending millions and millions of dollars on this strategy. I got one question for them. And this determines how strong their social media strategy is. I asked the CMO, have your niece or your nephew or your child tweet your company's Twitter account. Ask a question, anything. Or have a complaint. And wait. How long does it take for them to respond back? If it takes longer than 3 days, the millions of dollars you're actually spending on social media strategy is a waste of time. So the goal is, I call it my Are You There, God social media strategy. Ask them a question. If your prayer gets answered, then you know they're listening. If not, don't waste your time. Or you're not interacting enough with them. It's very important that this becomes a play that you can actually interact with your customers. And they should say, at company, are you there? If they say yes, you've got a social media strategy. Now, here's another one I think is kind of funny. I've done a lot of analytics implementations, especially around sentiment. Sentiment seems to be the hottest topic. I have to say, some of this is my personal opinion, but it's also some of the implementation experiences that I've had. I've never seen sentiment make someone buy something. I've made them reconcile with their brand, but I've never seen them just go out and purposely buy something from me. And another thing that I've also seen is, I've never seen neutral sentiment. A lot of the tools that I use, and a lot of technology, they always have this positive, negative, neutral. I don't think it's neutral. I think neutral means you're not getting them to interact with you. You're not pushing them to a behavior. Or they think you're not going to listen. Here's a great example. After today, of course we're going to have dinner and that kind of thing, but let's say a couple of days from now, you take your wife or you take your husband out for dinner. And as you're driving the car, you just say, hey, where would you like to go eat? They're like, no, I don't care. It doesn't matter, where do you want to go? They're like, okay, let's go, have Italian. No, I don't feel like Italian. There is no neutral. You just have to push your buttons and give them choices, and they will make the decisions for you. But because neutral means the technology is not working. And what's very important when we're doing this is, one sentiment that I don't understand why we're not using more is morale. When I go into China, I have to give them my passport and judge their service at the passport desk. Happy, sad. And of course, I'm giving my passport to a Chinese government official. I'm going to say happy every time. I'm not going to lie. Well, I am. I'm scared. I don't want to take my passport. Why don't we do that internally? Why can't we have a morale analysis where basically when you log into C3 and ask, hey, how you feeling today? And basically when I look at my sales numbers, or as executive managers look at their sales numbers are high, but the morale of the sales department is low. I can make a prediction there. Basically I'm going to have a nutrition problem, or basically I'm going to have low sales next quarter. So you need the math and the human input to be able to make accurate predictions. And that's where sentiment comes in very, very handy. What I also think is funny, especially around app development, our kids are doing amazing things we internally through our own intranet doesn't allow us to do. Actually, I got a call from finance basically saying, you know what, your mobile phone bill was $14,000, which Andrew enters here, he's like, how much, why was that so expensive? But anyway, so the $14,000, why was it so high? I'm like, well, if I can use Skype, or if I can use Google Voice, it would be free. You know what's funny is, why is it that our kids can create these apps and use these apps, and we can't? One of the things I've always said, especially from my analytics team, is, when you're creating security or when you're actually doing big data analytics, assume everyone's positive, assume everyone's doing the right thing for the company, and then narrow down the problem. Don't create problems at the front. Do it when you see the problem. Focus on the successes. And what I'm also seeing too is that app development that I'm seeing is done by 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds. So does that constitute a sweatshop? There are 14 and 15-year-olds are being able to create amazing apps that we ourselves take so much process to do. And here's something I wanted to kind of bring up, especially around big data and analytics, which I think is kind of important. If you want to know the priority of all of you from a big data and analytics perspective, when you get a new phone, a tablet, in what order do you install your apps? Do you install LinkedIn first? Do you install Facebook first? What is your priority of the apps that you install on there? That is your big data priorities as humans. And that's how we should actually approach as we're doing big data and analytics. What is the priority of the things that we're installing that is personalized to us? And what are the things that we cannot live without? Then focus on those things as the inputs we need to be able to do preventive or adaptive analytics. Now, I also get this a lot. Data scientists. Oh my God, I can't find a data scientist. Can you find a data scientist for me? A data scientist for me. Data scientists are not completely math enabled. You need the math. Statistics is very, very important. But the most important thing you need is a storyteller. You need someone that can actually visualize and tell the story behind the math. And what we actually have been trying to recruit is people from School of Art Design. The people from School of Art Design, especially when they're in digital media, they know how to extract information, be able to turn it into something that tells a story. We're moving ahead of pie charts, bar charts. That's what you see in the next slide. I think pie charts, bar charts are going to be obsolete in the next 3 to 5 years. And from a data scientist perspective, you really need to be able to create a narrative around the math, the data, and the human inputs together. And what I've found is being able to look at behavior. Someone that has a math major with a minor in psychology or philosophy makes them the best data scientists. Someone that can understand why someone does certain things, not that, oh, they did it. It's very, very important because I promise you, everything is revolving back to the psychology of analytics. Why people do things is because the people like themselves are doing those things. And they aspire to be like other people. And that's what it brings up. We're returning to the caveman. I believe that the next visualizations that we're going to be having are the next new ways of picking up artists. Imagine that the entire office is filled with big LED screens that you can touch that show operationally what is going on in your organization. It's not hard. Actually, here's my challenge to everyone, management, employee alike. What I tell a lot of our CIOs, you have amazing people inside the organization. Go buy an LED touch screen. Put it up in like a shared office place area where everyone can see it. Put a countdown clock on it for 90 days. And say, look, I don't care what you use. I don't care what technology, whatever it is. In 90 days, fill up this LED screen with visualizations that help me run my business. Use anything you got. Can't buy anything. Just use what you got and make it. Do your day job, but also on the side. Fill this up. And you'll be surprised in 90 days what your teams can actually do internally. The creativity that they have. That's what's really super powerful about this. And then here CSC comes in. So when I talk to the CIOs, is after 90 days, what you can't fill up, that's where we come in. Stop being, I'm trying to tell a lot of our customers, don't be vendor colonized. Don't think you've got to have this technology and tool, or all my employees are crap. They're incredibly creative. That's why they join your organization. Give them the opportunity to be able to do that. And once they hit that 90-day threshold, what they can't do, bring us in. And that's the real goal, the real value of being able to do this, especially from a data scientist perspective. You know, have you seen some of this work that they've done? I saw one data visualization that showed everything that humans have done, bad and good, over the last 500 years in graphical visualization form. Being able to interact with it. Why can't we do that for operational stuff? Why can't we do that for what we're going to be doing in the future? And I believe we will. Data artists will be next. Here's another thing, from an internal perspective. Basically, I call it sales pattern mapping, or pattern seeking sales. Probably some of you have seen the movie Moneyball, where they talk about psychometrics and being able to figure out, okay, all we care about is the runs in baseball, or what actually wins the games. What we're talking about here from a CSC perspective, we have so much data internally, especially pulse point. Pulse point data is amazing to be able to analyze. You know that there's certain successes that is always there, that once this pattern happens, you always win the account. Don't focus on the problems. Just look at if we're analyzing the patterns in our successes, there's a certain combination that every time you do a certain thing, you always win it. But and we're actually feeding that to our sales organizations now in Asia Pacific. You know, if you sell this, 85 to 90% chance you're always going to sell this. But our salespeople sometimes are a little skeptical of that. You're making it less salesy, and you're making it more technology, where they feel that they're going to be obsolete. And actually, that's not the point. The point is, when you find that pattern, and you can feed your salespeople, we can go back to the way our grandparents used to do things. Old school style. Build intimacy. So you're not just always on the phone trying to sell. I know who's going to sell. I call them. Let's go have dinner. Let's have drinks. Now you can spend intimate time with them to figure out what really is their problem without trying to knock on somebody's doors. You know the people that are going to buy. And the more successes you make, the more patterns you're creating, and the more intimacy you go, you're finding out why you're successful, and you can use those patterns. I really believe from a CSC perspective internally, and being able to offer this to our external customers, this is the key. Learning to use their data to find the success combinations. Problems are going to be there, and we can always use big data to figure out problems. I'm really trying to influence people. Look at the successes. Why are you so good at this? And just keep doing it and make it bigger, and then we can use this to go into your problem state. And I would like to use this, and we're working on this now internally for CSC. Now, there's another thing that I'd like to bring up. A lot of people find a little kind of controversial. A lot of people say that once you go online, you never can get off online. You can never get offline. I don't believe in that. Actually, when I took the job at CSC, my dad made me promise something very, very important. He said that if you're going to go into business analytics, and at that time I was really focusing on financial services insurance. My dad did insurance for 25 years. He said, do two things. Do not screw up the insurance companies like banking got screwed up with technology. That was his first rule. Second of all, do not forget about this interaction between humans. This is the key. Social interaction. You even interact with people. So there's a point where I can sell something to you online, and as you buy things online and you're making more money for me, there's a crossover point where you're so valuable to me. Just give them a human. Give them a human that can call them up and say, hey, just noticed that you bought this. You know what? I'm not a sales guy. I just want to thanks so much. If you need anything, my name is Gary. Hey, I know she bought the Prince album. That's kind of weird. It's like Prince. It's kind of outdated, but that's cool. And you're just being able to create an interaction. And there's a human crossover point that analytics can give you. But you know when to sell, but there's a place where you actually have to put a human in its place. And here's another thing too. Not all people are going to use big data analytics. A lot of people are not even going to believe reports or use collaboration. You know how you figure out if someone's going to do it. And I'm not going to ask anyone to raise their hands, but this is a very easy litmus test. How many of you call your husband or your wife? Okay, just pick yourself, because I don't want you to get in trouble later. What did you call me? But the other one is, how many of you text your wife or your husband? The people that text and call their wives, the ones that like to do everything online, they don't care about the humans. And notice this, your kids, especially your kids now, do you realize that they would rather WhatsApp you than talk to you face to face? But now, my generation, you know, the 40 to 50, you know, the phone call, you're kind of in the middle. Actually, I saw a really funny ad in New York City that says, do you text someone to ask them if you can call them? Which I don't know where that fits in. I guess you're kind of a hybrid in that situation. But that's where you find out about your customer, the maturity of their customer. Are they all focused on the human to human? That's great. Don't lose the human to human. But allow the online, the big data analytics to be able to get that low-hanging fruit so you actually can focus on building intimacy with the customers. Remember, big data analytics is not about creating criminality. Big data analytics is about creating humanity again. To turn customer IDs back into people again. That is the real goal for this. Now, this is where it kind of gets spooky. So I've talked about being able to do certain things with big data analytics that we at CSC can personally apply to. But here's where I think it's going. And it's kind of spooky, but I think in some ways it's good. This picture is actually a very good friend of mine. His name is Sven. He's from Denmark. He passed away in 2008. He got in a massive heart attack. He was in great shape. He was always working out, but we couldn't have seen it coming. Sven got me into Facebook. He is the one that introduced me to Facebook back in 2008. He's an avid Facebook user. He's posting every picture. This is actually the only good picture. He did a trip to Nepal, to the Himalayas, and he's posting on this because this was his last picture he ever took before he passed away. Now, what I believe is going to happen very soon, because I kept talking about how warehousing has slowed down our progress to predict the future. I believe everything's in a cycle. I think warehousing is going to return. but warehousing is going to come to you. There's going to be a self-warehousing. That you're actually going to take your information, bring it together for yourselves. What does that mean? Stan right now is on Facebook still. He's still my friend on Facebook. He's no longer with us. But every birthday, we all wish him happy birthday. We all go through his timeline. We all go and kind of share our experiences with him. Eventually, your kids or your parents, if they're avid Facebook users, what if you could go back to them and have experiences where you could ask questions to the people that already passed? They're not going to give you answers of right now, but based on their personal experiences, semantically, it would link up and say, hey, like, I'm thinking about having a daughter. What do you think, Dad? And basically say, well, when I had you, being able to link that back. So actually now turn in personal experiences in the self-warehouses of experience. So you never actually say, what if no one ever died? It can always be queried. That's where things are moving to. And I definitely believe this. I think that in a couple of months, or maybe 2 or 3 years, you're going to have one day, Facebook's going to have a downtime. And I don't know if anybody was here during when the earthquake happened in Taiwan, where the internet cable got disconnected. This was back in 2007, I believe it was. And all the internet got shut down. I think India, you guys were okay because y'all had cable come straight to you. But in Hong Kong, all the executive admins freaked out because they couldn't chat online anymore, in the internet. I think the same thing's going to happen with Facebook. There's going to be one day when there's a downtime. Everybody's going to realize, since 2007, my entire life has been going to Facebook. I don't have my own personal experiences. And that's where the idea is going to start coming from. I need to take this information out. I want my own database to keep up with my own family. It's been forever since we sat on couches to look at photo albums. Now we're using iPhones. Those systems go down. Where is your life and your experiences? And I believe that that is what's driving going towards experiences. And that is a big data analytics play. Next thing. And this is kind of funny because I was doing an implementation in China around text analytics. And this is for my previous company I worked for. I'm going to say it right now. When I was doing text analytics for them, they were actually doing some of the pro-democracy work. So basically, they were looking at blogs and they were trying to see if anyone that was actually going to stick out or create a pro-democracy movement so they could clamp down on it. Which I didn't agree with it. But, when you're working for a company, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. While we were doing this, we were doing text analytics, and the text analytics software we were using was self-learning. It was a self-learning technology. And what we had to tell it to do is, there's 2 rules. Well, there's one rule at the beginning, and we created a second rule. The first rule was always assume the text that we're reading is positive. Because any false negative would have the Chinese government linking up the IP address, going to the internet cafe, and swooping in and taking them out. So we had to, my thing was assume everything is positive. Assume the golden rule. Everything's good. And the second thing is we were learning this thing. We had to make sure that it didn't do a lot of stuff automated, even though it's self-learning. So we basically kept having the program to come back to us and say, what's my purpose? So as we were reading these blogs, these Chinese blogs, we were looking for 2 words specifically. Tomorrow and hope in Chinese. That's just what they told us to do for the implementation. And it was just very surprising to see how many times those words came up. So we were trying to get rid of so many hits. And as I was working with the Shanghai team and we were looking at this stuff, we were like, wow, this is kind of interesting. As we're doing this, is how humans are. And our whole golden rule is treat others like you want to be treated. Always assume the positive in people. And the second rule is never tell the person their purpose. So you shouldn't spend your entire life searching out your purpose. So you always go back to the maker to be able to figure out what is my purpose in life. So we're just repeating a cycle. So basically, as we were doing this text analytics, I was realizing we're living text analytics. Never tell us purpose, so it's always seeking, always trying to find, always trying to bring people together, always trying to bring them all together, be able to give insight. Which I thought was very fitting. And I also thought it was very sad. Big data can be used in amazing ways. That is very, very powerful and also destroyed. So it's very important from a CSC perspective, and I'll speak on this in some of the breakout sessions, there has to be something that we call social volunteering. Do not take from our customers. Don't take information from them that I'm giving you. Allow them to volunteer it, and can show them insight on themselves, and they will gladly give you something else. It's just like people. Remember, it's just like humans. So as I interact with you, I tell you a secret, you tell me a secret about me. It creates intimacy. And what's beautiful about that is it creates a transparency around the data. So we're not seen as a bad guy. And here's a joke I always do, it's very serious. What is the difference? Because you don't want, from a CSC perspective, people to assume that we're stalkers, that we're creepy. What is the difference between a stalker and a friend? A stalker knows your birthday. Right? And we don't need that like that. We want people to volunteer their birthday information. And we say, thanks for telling me, and then we remember. That is intimacy. And that is the key, probably, a data analytics perspective. Now, one thing that I wanted to bring up that's close to this is, December 21st, I think it's just getting the brand new buying calendar. And I'm going to get it, I think about it, it's a lot more easier. You just get one big book, and you have it for 5,000 years, you don't have to get one every year. I think it's more efficient that way. But what if it's not? If the things that you're doing right now, if they're not making you happy, or you're not being able to be creative or change the world, the next question I have to do is, what if we get completely focused on creating analytical apps that the customer pays us for the prediction? Their implementation times are 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the max, and they make money after the implementation for years and years to come. That is where I believe the market is going. Enterprise data warehouses, BI, will be given away for free, or pay per prediction model, outcome-based KPI pricing. And that means that everyone in this room